Pregnant and vulnerable, Mary and Clara were put up for auction, standing on a wooden platform under the harsh desert sun. Their father, driven by greed, saw his daughters as nothing but burdens to be sold to the highest bidder. No compassion, no mercy, just the relentless heat and the murmur of the uneasy crowd. They stood firm, defiant in their plight, with little hope in sight. But then, through the whispers of fear, two Apache warriors emerged from the crowd, calm, resolute, and determined. They thought all hope was lost, but destiny had a different plan. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from, and subscribe if you believe that destiny always has a plan. In a small, dusty town on the edge of the desert, there was a sense of unease. The town had seen many difficult days, but this one felt different. People whispered to each other as they walked through the dusty streets. Word had spread quickly about an auction that was to take place. It was not a usual auction of goods or land. This auction was about people, and it made the townsfolk uneasy. The man at the center of this event was harsh and unkind. He was known in the town for his greed and hard heart. He had two daughters, Mary and Clara, who had both lost their husbands to the same war. Now he saw them as a burden he did not want to carry. He planned to sell them to the highest bidder, thinking only of the money he might gain. The morning of the auction was hot and dry. The sun beat down on the wooden boards of the trading post, making the air shimmer with heat. People gathered slowly, drawn by curiosity and a sense of obligation. Many did not want to be there, but they came anyway, feeling the pull of the event. Mary and Clara stood on a makeshift platform in the town square. The platform had once held other auctions, though of a different kind, cattle and goods, not people. The sisters stood side by side, their faces set with determination. Both were pregnant, their bellies round with new life. Despite their situation, they showed no fear. Their eyes were clear and strong, looking out over the crowd with defiance. The crowd was quiet, filled with people who did not know where to look. Some stared at their feet, others glanced at the sisters and then away, embarrassed. The atmosphere was heavy, like a storm about to break. The father stepped forward, his voice loud and sharp. He spoke of his daughters as if they were nothing more than objects to be traded. He listed their strengths and abilities, trying to spark interest in the crowd. But the crowd was silent, uneasy with the man's callousness. Mary and Clara stood firm, their hands clasped together for support. They did not look at their father. Instead, they scanned the crowd, searching for a sign of hope. They did not cry or plead. They stood tall, their backs straight. They knew they had strength within them, a strength their father could not see. The town square was filled with the sound of rustling clothes and shifting feet. Some people murmured to each other, but most remained silent. The air was thick with tension, and the heat pressed down on them all. As the father continued his spiel, a new tension entered the crowd. There were whispers of Apache warriors seen nearby. These whispers brought a mix of fear and curiosity. The Apaches were known for their fierce independence and strength. People looked around, wondering if they were already among them. Indeed, among the crowd were two Apache warriors, Chayton and Ahote. They stood quietly, observing the scene with calm eyes. They had come to the town for their own reasons, but now their focus was on the sisters. They watched the proceedings with a sense of purpose, understanding the gravity of what was happening. The auctioneer, an old man with a weathered face, stepped forward. He cleared his throat and began the bidding. His voice was loud and clear, cutting through the murmur of the crowd. But as he spoke, Chayton and Ahote exchanged a look of understanding. They knew they could not stand by and let this injustice happen. The sisters remained silent on the platform, their hands gripping each other tightly. The father watched with anticipation, his eyes gleaming with greed. But the crowd stayed quiet, unsure of what to do. The atmosphere was thick with tension, like the air before a heavy rain. The people gathered were torn between their own lives and the spectacle unfolding before them. Some felt pity for the sisters, while others felt anger at the father's cruelty. But no one seemed willing to act. Then, as the auctioneer's voice rose louder, Chaitin and Ahote stepped forward. Their presence was strong and commanding, drawing the attention of everyone around them. The crowd fell silent, a ripple of shock passing through them. Chaitin spoke first, his voice steady and clear. He questioned the morality of selling one's own daughters, his words piercing the silence like arrows. Ahote stood beside him, his eyes watching the father with a calm yet firm gaze. The father, caught off guard by their boldness, faltered. His words stumbled, and for a moment he seemed unsure of himself. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. The crowd watched, transfixed by the unfolding scene. Some felt a flicker of hope, while others were simply curious about what would happen next. The sisters, still on the platform, exchanged a look. For the first time in many days, they felt a glimmer of hope, a chance that they might be free. Chaitin and Ahote turned to the sisters, their expressions softening. They spoke directly to them, offering them a way out. The sisters listened, their hearts pounding with a mix of fear and hope. They knew this was their chance, a chance to escape the life their father had planned for them. The father, seeing his plans unravel, tried to assert control. He raised his voice, but it was too late. The crowd had turned their attention to the warriors and the sisters, and the father's words fell on deaf ears. Chaitin and Ahote negotiated with the father, their words steady and unwavering. They offered a fair price, one that would satisfy the father's greed and secure the sisters' freedom. The tension in the air was almost unbearable as the crowd waited for the father's response. Finally, the father, seeing no other choice, agreed to the deal. His voice was grudging, filled with frustration and defeat. The crowd let out a collective breath, the tension easing slightly. The sisters stepped down from the platform, their hearts racing. They joined Chaitin and Ahote, grateful for their courage and strength. The crowd watched as the four of them left the square, a mixture of emotions in their hearts. As they walked away from the town, the sisters felt a sense of relief. They were free from their father's control, free to start a new life. The road ahead was uncertain, but they knew they would face it together. Chaitin and Ahote led the way, their presence a source of comfort and strength. The sisters walked beside them, their eyes filled with determination. They knew they had a long journey ahead, but they were ready to face it. The town behind them slowly faded from view, its dusty streets and weathered buildings a distant memory. The desert stretched out before them, vast and endless. But the sisters felt no fear. They had found allies in Chaitin and Ahote, and together, they would find a new beginning. The sun rose higher in the sky as Mary, Clara, Chaitin, and Ahote left the town behind. The desert stretched out before them, vast and seemingly endless. The sisters walked closely together, their hands still clasped from the auction. They felt a mixture of relief and uncertainty about the future. Chaitin and Ahote led the way, their steps sure and steady. They moved with confidence, familiar with the terrain. The sisters followed, trusting in their guidance. For the first time in a long while, they felt a sense of hope. As they traveled, the silence between them was comfortable. The sisters were still processing the events of the day. They had been freed from their father's control, and though the path ahead was unknown, it was theirs to choose. The desert was harsh, but it held a certain beauty. The land was dry and rocky, with sparse vegetation dotting the landscape. The sun was bright, casting long shadows on the ground. The air was hot and dry, but the group pressed on, determined to put as much distance as possible between themselves and the town. Chaitin and Ahote spoke quietly to each other as they walked. They were aware of the sisters' vulnerability and wanted to ensure their safety. They had seen much in their lives and understood the dangers that could come from the sisters' father or others who might try to harm them. Mary, the older sister, watched Chaitin as he walked ahead. She saw the strength in his movements and the calmness in his demeanor. She felt a strange sense of comfort in his presence, though they had only just met. Clara, more fiery and independent, walked beside Ahote. She admired his quiet wisdom and gentle nature. There was a kindness in his eyes that made her feel at ease, despite the uncertainty they faced. As the sun reached its peak, Chayton suggested they rest for a while. They found a spot of shade beneath a rocky outcrop, and everyone settled down to rest. The sisters sat together, grateful for the break. Their feet were sore from walking, and the heat had taken its toll. Chayton and Ahote shared their limited provisions with the sisters. They had brought dried meat and hard bread for the journey, and they offered it without hesitation. Mary and Clara accepted gratefully, aware of the generosity of their companions. As they ate, the sisters began to share their stories. Mary spoke first, her voice steady but tinged with sadness. She talked about their lives before the war, when their husbands were still alive. They had been happy then, living simple but fulfilling lives. Clara continued the story, her voice more fierce. She spoke of the war and how it had taken everything from them. Their husbands had gone to fight, and neither had returned. The loss had been devastating, leaving them alone and vulnerable. The sisters had returned to their father's house, thinking it would be a refuge. But he had seen them as nothing more than a burden. He had always been harsh, but the war had made him worse. His heart had hardened, and he had turned to drink and cruelty. Chayton and Ahote listened quietly, understanding the pain in the sisters' words. They had seen the effects of war on their own people, and they knew the sisters' story was not unique. Many had suffered, and many more would continue to do so. When the sisters finished speaking, there was a moment of silence. The desert wind whispered around them, a soft sound in the stillness. The sisters felt lighter for having shared their story, and they were grateful for the understanding in the eyes of their companions. Ahote spoke then, his voice calm and reassuring. He told them that they were safe now, and that he and Chayton would help them find a new place to call home. He promised that they would not have to face their future alone. Mary and Clara nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle over them. They knew the journey ahead would not be easy, but they were not afraid. They had found allies in Chayton and Ahote, and together, they would face whatever came their way. After their rest, the group continued their journey. The sun was lower in the sky now, casting a warm glow over the desert. The air was cooler, and the walking felt easier. They moved at a steady pace, each step taking them further from the life they had known. As they walked, the sisters asked Chayton and Ahote about themselves. They were curious about the warriors who had risked so much to help them. Chayton spoke first, telling them of his tribe and the struggles they faced. He spoke of the land, the traditions, and the hardships. Ahote added to the story, his voice gentle and thoughtful. He spoke of the importance of family and community, values that were central to their way of life. The sisters listened intently, their respect for the warriors growing with each word. The sun dipped below the horizon, and the desert was bathed in the soft light of twilight. The group found a suitable place to camp for the night. Chayton and Ahote worked quickly, setting up a small fire to provide warmth and light. The sisters helped where they could, eager to contribute. They gathered sticks and stones, following the warriors' instructions. The simple tasks were comforting, offering a sense of normalcy in their otherwise uncertain world. As the fire crackled and the stars appeared overhead, the group sat together, sharing stories and laughter. The sisters felt a sense of belonging they had not felt in a long time. The desert night was cool, but the warmth of the fire and the companionship kept the chill at bay. Mary watched Chayton as he spoke, his face lit by the firelight. She felt drawn to him, his strength and kindness a balm to her weary soul. Clara, too, watched Ahote, finding comfort in his quiet presence. The sisters knew their journey was just beginning, but they no longer felt alone. They had found friends in Chayton and Ahote, and with them, a chance for a new life. As the fire burned low and the night deepened, the sisters felt hope for the first time in a long while. They settled down to sleep, the stars watching over them like silent guardians. The desert, vast and mysterious, surrounded them, but they were no longer afraid. Together with their new friends, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the desert, casting a soft light across the landscape. Mary, Clara, Chayton, and Ahote awoke to the cool morning air. The fire from the night before had burned down to embers, and the sky was a pale blue, promising another hot day. The group prepared to continue their journey. They ate a simple breakfast of dried meat and bread, sharing the last of their water. Chaitan and Ahot spoke of finding a stream or an oasis where they could refill their supplies. It was important to keep moving to put more distance between themselves and the town. As they packed their few belongings, the atmosphere was calm but focused. Mary and Clara were grateful for the new day. Each step took them further from their father and the life they had left behind. The morning passed in a steady rhythm of walking and resting. The desert stretched out around them, vast and open. The land was quiet, save for the occasional rustle of a small animal or the call of a distant bird. The sisters felt a sense of peace, despite the challenges they faced. As the sun climbed higher, the group stopped to rest in the shade of a rocky outcrop. They sat in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Mary and Clara were learning to trust their companions and the new life they were creating. After a short rest, they continued their journey. The path ahead was uncertain, but they knew they were heading in the right direction. Chaitan and Ahot led the way, their eyes scanning the horizon for signs of water or danger. As midday approached, the heat became more intense. The sun was relentless, and the ground shimmered with heat. The group moved carefully, conserving their energy and staying close together. It was during one of these quiet moments that the sound of horses reached their ears. It was distant at first, but it grew louder, echoing across the open landscape. Mary and Clara exchanged a worried glance, their hearts quickening with fear. Chaitan and Ahot stopped, their bodies tense and alert. They turned towards the sound, their eyes narrowing as they tried to gauge the distance and number of horses. The sisters stood behind them, their trust in the warriors unwavering. The horses drew closer, and soon the riders came into view. They were a group of men, rough-looking and armed. Their eyes were sharp and their expressions hard. It was clear they were not friendly. Chaitan stepped forward, his stance firm and protective. Ahot joined him, both of them ready to defend the sisters. The riders slowed as they approached, sizing up the small group before them. The leader of the riders, a man with a scar across his cheek, spoke first. His voice was loud and mocking, as if he found the situation amusing. He demanded to know why the sisters were with the Apache warriors, his tone suggesting he expected obedience. Chaitan answered calmly, his voice steady and clear. He explained that the sisters were under their protection and that they wished to pass through without trouble. His words were respectful but firm, leaving no room for argument. The leader of the riders laughed, a harsh sound that grated against the quiet of the desert. He seemed to find Chaitan's words amusing, as if he did not take the warriors seriously. His eyes shifted to Mary and Clara, and his smile widened. Mary felt a shiver run down her spine at the man's gaze. She moved closer to Clara, her protective instincts kicking in. Clara stood tall beside her sister, her eyes defiant. The tension in the air was thick, like the moment before a storm. The riders seemed ready to push the issue, to challenge the warriors and take what they wanted. But Chaitan and Ahot stood firm, their presence strong and commanding. The leader of the riders seemed to consider his options, his eyes flicking from the warriors to the sisters and back again. The standoff stretched on, the silence heavy and oppressive. Finally, Ahot spoke, his voice calm but edged with steel. He warned the riders that they would not back down and that any attempt to harm the sisters would be met with force. His words were simple, but they carried a weight that could not be ignored. The leader of the riders hesitated, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. The tension hung in the air, a fragile thing that could break at any moment. But the riders seemed to sense the determination in Chaitan and Ahot, the unwillingness to yield. After a long moment, the leader signaled to his men. With a reluctant nod, he turned his horse away, leading the riders in a different direction. The sound of their departure was a relief, the tension easing as they moved out of sight. The group watched them go, their hearts still pounding from the encounter. Mary and Clara felt a rush of gratitude for Chaitan and Ahot, their protectors and friends. The danger had passed, but the reminder of their vulnerability lingered. Once the riders were gone, the group continued their journey. They moved with renewed caution, aware that the desert held many dangers. But the sisters felt a growing sense of trust in their companions, knowing they would not face those dangers alone. The afternoon wore on, the sun casting long shadows on the ground. The group walked in silence, each lost in their thoughts. The encounter with the riders had shaken them, but it had also strengthened their resolve. As the sun began to set, they found a suitable place to camp for the night. The sky was painted with hues of orange and pink, a beautiful backdrop to their simple camp. The air was cooler, a welcome relief from the day's heat. Chaitin and Ahote started a fire, the flames casting a warm glow over the group. The sisters helped where they could, grateful for the chance to rest. The desert night was quiet, the stars twinkling overhead like distant beacons. As they settled down for the evening, the sisters felt a sense of peace. The day had been challenging, but they had faced it together. The bond between them and their companions was growing stronger, a source of strength and comfort. Mary and Clara sat together, their hearts full of gratitude and hope. They knew the journey was far from over, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With Chaitin and Ahote by their side, they felt they could overcome anything. The night deepened, the fire crackling softly. The desert, vast and mysterious, surrounded them, but they were not afraid. Together, they were forging a new path, one filled with promise and possibility. And as they drifted off to sleep, they knew they would rise to meet the dawn with courage and determination. The next morning, the group woke up early. The air was cool, and a soft light stretched over the desert. Mary, Clara, Chaitin, and Ahote packed up their camp, ready to continue their journey. The events of the previous day were still fresh in their minds, but their resolve was strong. They were determined to find a new life, far from the reach of the sisters' father. As they walked, the sisters felt a growing sense of freedom. Each step took them further from the town, from the life they had known. They were grateful for the chance to start anew, away from the shadow of their past. The desert was vast and open, with rocky hills and sparse vegetation. The land was quiet, save for the occasional rustle of the wind and the distant call of a bird. The group moved steadily, their pace sure and confident. Mary and Clara walked closely together, their hearts light despite the challenges ahead. They spoke quietly, sharing their hopes and dreams for the future. They imagined a place where they could live in peace, free from fear and uncertainty. Chaitin and Ahote led the way, their eyes scanning the horizon for signs of water or danger. They were cautious, aware of the risks that came with traveling through the desert. But their presence was reassuring, a constant source of strength and protection. As the sun rose higher, the heat became more intense. The group stopped to rest in the shade of a large rock, grateful for the respite from the sun. They shared their limited provisions, careful to conserve their supplies. During the break, Clara asked about the path ahead. She was curious about where they were going and what they might find. Ahote explained that they were heading towards a place known to the Apache, a hidden valley that could offer shelter and safety. Mary listened, her heart full of hope. The idea of finding a sanctuary, a place where they could be safe, was a dream she had held onto for so long. She felt a sense of peace, knowing they were moving in the right direction. After their rest, the group continued their journey. The desert stretched out before them, vast and unending. But the sisters felt no fear. They had found allies in Chaitin and Ahote, and together, they would face whatever lay ahead. As the day wore on, the terrain became more challenging. The ground was rocky and uneven, making the going slow and difficult. But the group pressed on, determined to reach their destination. The sun began to set, casting long shadows over the landscape. The air cooled, and the light softened to a golden hue. The group found a suitable place to camp for the night, a small clearing sheltered by rocks. Chaitin and Ahote started a fire, the flames providing warmth and light. The sisters helped gather sticks and stones, eager to contribute. The simple tasks were comforting, a reminder of the normalcy they were trying to build. As they sat around the fire, the group shared stories and laughter. The sisters felt a sense of belonging, their hearts light with hope and gratitude. They knew they still had a long way to go, but they were not alone. Mary watched Chaitin as he spoke, his face lit by the firelight. She felt drawn to him, his strength and kindness a balm to her weary soul. Clara, too, found comfort in Ahot's presence, his quiet wisdom a steadying force. The group settled down to sleep, the stars watching over them like silent guardians. The desert night was cool, but the warmth of the fire and the companionship kept the chill at bay. The next day, the group woke up to a clear sky. They packed up their camp and set off once more, the promise of a new life driving them forward. The terrain was still challenging, but they moved with purpose and determination. As they traveled, they encountered various challenges: harsh terrain, dwindling supplies, and the ever-present shadow of their father's influence. But with each challenge, their bond grew stronger. Mary and Clara shared more of their stories with Chaitin and Ahot, weaving tales of loss and resilience. They spoke of their husbands, of the life they had before the war. The warriors listened, their understanding and empathy a source of comfort. In turn, Chaitin and Ahot shared stories of their own. They spoke of their tribe, of the land, and the struggles they faced. They talked about the importance of family and community, values that resonated deeply with the sisters. As the days turned into weeks, the group continued their journey. They faced each challenge together, their bond strengthening with each step. The sisters grew more confident, their spirits lifted by the promise of a new beginning. Finally, after many days of travel, they reached the hidden valley. It was a place known only to the Apache, a sanctuary where they could find rest and safety. The valley was lush and green, with a clear stream running through it. It was a stark contrast to the harsh desert they had left behind. The group entered the valley, their hearts light with hope. The sisters felt a sense of peace, knowing they had found their sanctuary. They were grateful for the journey, for the challenges they had overcome, and for the friends who had helped them along the way. Mary and Clara knew they had a long road ahead, but they were ready to face it. With Chaitin and Ahot by their side, they felt they could overcome anything. They had found a new home, a place where they could build a future free from fear and uncertainty. As they settled into the valley, the sisters felt a sense of belonging. They knew they had found more than just a sanctuary. They had found a new family, and as they looked out over the valley, they knew they were ready to start their new life together. The hidden valley was a welcome sight for Mary, Clara, Chaitin, and Ahot. After their long journey through the harsh desert, the valley offered a sense of peace and safety. Its lush greenery and clear stream were a stark contrast to the dry, rocky terrain they had left behind. As they entered the valley, the group felt a sense of relief. The sisters had never seen a place like it, and they were filled with hope. Here, they could rest and begin to build a new life, far from the reach of their father and the dangers of the past. Chaitin and Ahot led the way to a small clearing near the stream. It was a perfect spot to set up camp, with plenty of shade and fresh water. The sisters helped unpack their belongings, eager to settle into their new surroundings. The first few days in the valley were spent adjusting to their new home. The group worked together, setting up a more permanent camp. They built a shelter from branches and leaves, providing protection from the elements. It was a simple structure, but it was sturdy and comfortable. Mary and Clara explored the valley, marveling at its beauty. There were wildflowers and birds, and the air was filled with the sound of running water. The sisters felt a sense of freedom and joy they had not known in a long time. They were grateful for the chance to start anew, far from the pain of their past. Chaitin and Ahot showed the sisters how to gather food and water. They taught them which plants were safe to eat and how to catch fish from the stream. The sisters were eager learners, their spirits lifted by the new skills they were acquiring. As the days passed, the routine of life in the valley became familiar and comforting. The group worked together, each contributing to the well-being of the others. The sisters felt a sense of belonging, their hearts full of gratitude for their new friends. Mary found herself drawn to Chaitin. His strength and kindness were a source of comfort, and she admired his quiet leadership. They spent time together, talking and sharing stories. Mary felt a connection with Chaitin that she could not deny. Clara, too, felt a bond with Ahote. His gentle wisdom and calm demeanor were reassuring, and she found herself seeking his company. They shared many quiet moments, speaking of dreams and hopes for the future. Clara felt a sense of peace with Ahote, a feeling she had not experienced in a long time. The valley offered a sense of safety, but the group knew they could not remain hidden forever. There were still dangers beyond the valley, and they had to be cautious. Chaitin and Ahote kept watch, ensuring that no one approached without their knowledge. The sisters were aware of the risks, but they felt secure in the knowledge that they were not alone. They had found a new family in Chaitin and Ahote, and together, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. One evening, as the sun set over the valley, the group gathered around the fire. The light danced on their faces, casting long shadows on the ground. They shared a simple meal, their laughter and conversation filling the air. Mary looked around at her companions, her heart full of gratitude. She felt a sense of contentment she had not known in years. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had brought her to this place, to these people. She knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. Clara, too, felt a sense of happiness. She had found a place where she was accepted and loved, a place where she could be herself. The pain of the past was fading, replaced by the joy of the present. She was ready to embrace the future with open arms. As the fire burned low, the group settled down for the night. The stars twinkled overhead, a reminder of the vastness of the world. The sisters felt a sense of peace, knowing they were safe and loved. The next morning, they woke to the sound of birds singing. The air was fresh and cool, and the valley was bathed in the soft light of dawn. The group began their day, each taking on their tasks with a sense of purpose. Mary and Clara worked together, gathering food and tending to the camp. They shared laughter and stories, their spirits high. The sisters had found a rhythm to their days, a balance that brought them joy. Chaitin and Ahote continued to teach the sisters about the land. They shared their knowledge of the plants and animals, their respect for the natural world evident in everything they did. The sisters were eager students, grateful for the wisdom of their companions. As the weeks passed, the group settled into a comfortable routine. They worked together, played together, and supported each other. The sisters felt a sense of belonging, a feeling that had been missing for so long. The valley became their sanctuary, a place of healing and hope. The sisters knew they were building a new life, one filled with promise and possibility. They were grateful for the journey that had brought them here, for the friends who had helped them along the way. Mary and Clara looked to the future with confidence, knowing they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They had found a new home, a place where they could be themselves. And with Chaitin and Ahote by their side, they knew they could overcome anything. As the days turned into months, the group continued to thrive. The valley was their refuge, a place of peace and safety. They had found more than just a home. They had found a family. And as they looked out over the valley, they knew they were ready to face the future, together. The days in the valley passed peacefully, with Mary, Clara, Chaitin, and Ahote settling into their new life. They had found a rhythm that worked for them, each contributing to the well-being of the group. The sisters felt safe and content, their hearts full of hope for the future. But beneath the surface of this tranquility, there was a growing sense of unease. Whispers reached them, carried by the wind, of a threat from beyond the valley. The sisters' father was unwilling to accept their departure. Driven by pride and anger, he had enlisted the help of mercenaries to find his daughters and bring them back. Chaitin and Ahote sensed the tension in the air. They knew the father's reach was long and his determination strong. The safety of the valley could be compromised if the mercenaries managed to track them down. The warriors were determined to protect Mary and Clara, but they knew they would need help. The sisters were aware of the danger, but they refused to let fear take hold. They had come too far to let their father's shadow darken their new life. Together with Chaitin and Ahote, they began to prepare for the possibility of confrontation. The group reached out to nearby tribes, seeking allies who might help them defend the valley. These tribes had their own grievances against the sisters' father, who had long been a source of trouble in the region. Many were willing to stand with them, united by a common cause. The valley became a place of gathering, with people arriving from all directions. They came in small groups, bringing weapons and supplies. The sense of community was strong, a shared determination binding them together. Mary and Clara were deeply moved by the support they received. They had never imagined such kindness and solidarity. Their hearts swelled with gratitude, their resolve strengthened by the knowledge that they were not alone. Chaitin and Ahote took on the role of leaders, organizing the defense of the valley. They worked tirelessly, coordinating with the newcomers and ensuring everyone knew their role. The sisters helped where they could, their determination to protect their new home evident in everything they did. The days were filled with preparation, the air buzzing with activity. People trained together, honing their skills and building their confidence. The valley, once a place of peace, became a hub of energy and focus. Despite the tension, there was a sense of hope. The people gathered in the valley were united by a common goal, their bonds growing stronger with each passing day. The sisters felt a deep sense of belonging, their hearts full of love for their new family. As the days turned into weeks, the whispers of pursuit grew louder. The mercenaries were drawing closer, their presence a dark cloud on the horizon. The people of the valley prepared themselves, ready to defend their home and their way of life. Mary and Clara refused to be passive observers. They trained alongside the others, learning to defend themselves and those they loved. Their spirits were strong, their determination unyielding. Chaitin and Ahote watched the sisters with pride, their hearts full of admiration. They had seen the sisters grow from frightened women into strong, capable individuals. Their courage and resilience were an inspiration to everyone around them. The valley was filled with a sense of anticipation, the tension almost palpable. But the people remained focused, their determination unwavering. They knew the time for confrontation was approaching, and they were ready. One evening, as the sun set over the valley, Mary and Clara sat together, watching the sky turn from orange to purple. The air was cool, a gentle breeze rustling the leaves. The sisters felt a sense of peace, their hearts full of gratitude for the journey that had brought them here. They spoke quietly, sharing their hopes and fears. They knew they were facing a great challenge, but they were not afraid. They had found a new family, a place where they were accepted and loved. Together, they were ready to face whatever lay ahead. Chaitin and Ahote joined them, their presence a comfort. The four of them sat in silence, the bond between them strong and unbreakable. They knew the days ahead would be difficult, but they were ready to face them together. As night fell, the people of the valley settled down to sleep, their hearts full of hope and determination. The stars twinkled overhead, a reminder of the vastness of the world and the strength of the bonds they had formed. The days passed, and the preparations continued. The valley was a hive of activity, the people focused and determined. They trained and planned, their resolve growing stronger with each passing day. The sisters worked tirelessly, their determination unwavering. They had found a new home, a place where they could build a future free from fear and uncertainty. They were ready to defend it with everything they had. Chaitin and Ahote continued to lead, their wisdom and strength a guiding force. They knew the time for confrontation was drawing near, but they remained calm and focused. Their presence was a source of comfort and reassurance to everyone around them. The valley was filled with a sense of unity, a shared purpose binding the people together. They knew they were facing a great challenge, but they were ready. The bonds they had formed were strong, their determination unyielding. As the sun set on another day, the people of the valley gathered together, their hearts full of hope and determination. They knew the days ahead would be difficult, but they were ready to face them together. They had found more than just a home. They had found a family, and they were ready to defend it with everything they had. The day of confrontation arrived. The sun rose slowly over the valley, casting long shadows across the land. Mary, Clara, Chaitin, Ahote, and their allies were ready. Their hearts were steady, their resolve unyielding. They had prepared for this moment, and they knew what was at stake. The mercenaries, hired by the sisters' father, approached from the west. Their numbers were many, and they were armed and ready for a fight. The valley, once a place of peace, was now set to become a battlefield. Mary and Clara stood side by side, their hands steady. They had trained hard, and they knew they could not falter. Their new home, their new family depended on them. They would not let fear take hold. Chaitin and Ahot led the defense. Their voices were calm and clear as they gave instructions, their presence a source of strength to the people around them. The warriors of the valley, both men and women, took their positions, ready to face whatever came their way. The moment was tense, the air thick with anticipation. The valley was quiet, the usual sounds of nature replaced by the steady breathing of those prepared to fight. The people were united, their bonds strong and true. The mercenaries entered the valley, their eyes scanning the terrain. They were met with the sight of a determined group, ready to defend their home. They hesitated, taken aback by the sight before them. This was not the easy target they had expected. Chaitin stepped forward, his stance firm and unyielding. He called out to the mercenaries, offering them a chance to leave peacefully. His words were steady and calm, but they carried a weight that could not be ignored. The leader of the mercenaries, a tall man with a scar across his cheek, stepped forward. His eyes were cold, his expression hard. He laughed, a harsh sound that grated against the quiet of the valley. He refused Chaitin's offer, his confidence in his numbers apparent. Ahot joined Chaitin, his presence calm and reassuring. The people of the valley stood behind them, their resolve unwavering. They knew the time for talk was over, and they were ready to defend their home. The battle began with a sudden rush of movement. The mercenaries charged, their weapons gleaming in the sunlight. The people of the valley met them head-on, their hearts full of determination. Mary and Clara fought alongside their new family. They were untrained, but their spirits were strong. They had learned much in the weeks leading up to this moment, and they were ready to put that knowledge to use. The valley echoed with the sounds of battle, the clash of weapons, the shouts of those fighting for their home. The people of the valley fought with everything they had, their love for their home and each other driving them forward. Chaitin and Ahot moved through the battle with skill and precision. They had fought many battles before, but this one was different. They were fighting for their home, for the people they had come to love. The battle was fierce and unrelenting. The mercenaries were strong, but the people of the valley fought with a determination that could not be matched. They were united, their bonds forged in the fires of shared struggle. Mary and Clara stayed close to each other, their movements in sync. They fought with a strength they did not know they possessed, their love for their new home guiding their actions. The tide of the battle began to shift. The mercenaries, once confident in their victory, found themselves overwhelmed by the determination of the people they faced. The unity of the valley was a force they had not anticipated. As the sun reached its peak, the mercenaries began to falter. Their numbers were thinning, and their resolve was weakening. The people of the valley pushed forward, their spirits high and their determination unyielding. The leader of the mercenaries, seeing the battle turning against him, called for a retreat. His voice was filled with frustration and disbelief. The mercenaries, once so sure of their victory, turned and fled, leaving the valley behind. The people of the valley watched as the mercenaries disappeared from sight. The battle was over and they had won. Their home was safe and their new family was intact. Mary and Clara embraced, their hearts full of relief and gratitude. They had faced their greatest challenge and emerged victorious. Their new home, their new family was safe. They had fought for what they believed in and they had won. Chaitin and Ahot joined the sisters, their expressions filled with pride and love. They had led the people of the valley to victory, and they knew they had made a difference. Their hearts were full, their spirits light. The people of the valley gathered together, their voices raised in celebration. They had faced their fears and triumphed. Their bonds were stronger than ever, their love for each other unwavering. As the sun began to set, the valley was filled with the sounds of joy and laughter. The people had fought for their home and they had won. They knew there would be challenges ahead, but they were ready to face them together. Mary and Clara looked around at their new family, their hearts full of gratitude. They had found a home, a place where they belonged. And with Chayton and Ahote by their side, they knew they could face whatever the future held. The valley, once a place of peace, had become a place of strength and unity. The people had fought for their home and they had won. They had found more than just a sanctuary. They had found a family. And as the stars appeared in the sky, they knew they were ready to face the future, together. The morning after the battle dawned clear and bright. The valley was calm once more, the echoes of the previous day's conflict replaced by the gentle sounds of nature. Mary, Clara, Chayton, Ahote, and their allies gathered together, their hearts full of relief and gratitude. They had faced a great challenge and emerged victorious. The people of the valley had fought bravely, united by their shared determination to protect their home. They had faced the mercenaries with courage and strength, their bonds growing stronger with each moment. The victory was hard-won, but it was a testament to their resilience and unity. Mary and Clara felt a deep sense of pride in what they had accomplished. They had found a new home, a place where they belonged. They had fought for it with everything they had, and they had won. Their hearts were full of gratitude for the journey that had brought them here, and for the friends who had stood by their side. Chayton and Ahote were filled with pride for the people of the valley. They had led them through the battle, their wisdom and strength guiding them to victory. The bonds they had formed were strong, their love for their new family unwavering. As the people of the valley gathered to celebrate their victory, they were joined by unexpected allies. The townsfolk, inspired by the courage of Mary, Clara, and their companions, arrived to offer their support. They had seen the strength and determination of the people of the valley, and they wanted to be a part of it. The townsfolk brought supplies and provisions, their hearts filled with gratitude for the efforts of the valley's defenders. They had been inspired by the courage of Mary and Clara, and they wanted to stand alongside them in unity. The arrival of the townsfolk was a turning point for the valley. The people were united, their bonds stronger than ever. They knew that together, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The celebration that followed was filled with joy and laughter. The people of the valley and the townsfolk shared stories and songs, their voices echoing through the valley. The bonds between them grew stronger, their unity a testament to the power of love and friendship. Mary and Clara were deeply moved by the support they received. They had found a new family, a place where they belonged. Their hearts were full of gratitude for the journey that had brought them here, and for the friends who had stood by their side. Chayton and Ahote watched as the people of the valley and the townsfolk came together. They felt a deep sense of satisfaction in what they had accomplished. The bonds they had forged were strong, their love for their new family unwavering. As the celebration continued, the people of the valley and the townsfolk shared their hopes and dreams for the future. They knew that together, they could build a community where acceptance and respect were paramount. Mary and Clara emerged as leaders, their voices strong and unwavering. They spoke of the importance of love and unity, their words inspiring those around them. They knew that together, they could build a new life, one filled with promise and possibility. Chayton and Ahote stood by their side, their presence a source of strength and reassurance. They knew the road ahead would not be easy, but they were ready to face it together. Their hearts were full, their spirits light. The days that followed were filled with hard work and determination. The people of the valley and the townsfolk worked together to rebuild and heal. They tended to the wounded, their efforts guided by a newfound sense of purpose. Mary and Clara found solace in the work, their spirits lifted by the sense of community that surrounded them. They knew they had found a new home, a place where they belonged. Their hearts were full of gratitude for the journey that had brought them here, and for the friends who had stood by their side. Chayton and Ahote continued to lead, their wisdom and strength guiding the people of the valley. They knew that together, they could build a community where acceptance and respect were paramount. As the days turned into weeks, the bonds between the people of the valley and the townsfolk grew stronger. They had faced a great challenge and emerged victorious, their unity a testament to the power of love and friendship. Mary and Clara looked to the future with confidence, knowing they were building a new life, one filled with promise and possibility. They had found a new home, a place where they belonged. And with Chaitin and Ahote by their side, they knew they could face whatever the future held. The valley, once a place of peace, had become a place of strength and unity. The people had fought for their home and they had won. They had found more than just a sanctuary. They had found a family. And as they looked out over the valley, they knew they were ready to face the future, together. The bonds they had formed were strong, their love for each other unwavering. They knew they had faced their greatest challenge and emerged victorious. Their hearts were full of gratitude for the journey that had brought them here, and for the friends who had stood by their side. As the sun set on another day, the people of the valley and the townsfolk gathered together, their hearts full of hope and determination. They knew the days ahead would be challenging, but they were ready to face them together. They had found a new home, a place where they belonged. And with Chaitin and Ahote by their side, they knew they could overcome anything. In the weeks following the battle, the valley began to heal. The people worked together, each contributing to the rebuilding and restoration. The scars of conflict were still visible, but the spirit of the community was strong. Mary, Clara, Chaitin, and Ahote were at the heart of these efforts, guiding and supporting the people as they moved forward. The valley had become a place of healing. The people tended to the wounded, their efforts guided by a shared sense of purpose. They rebuilt what had been damaged, their hands working tirelessly to restore their home. The work was hard, but it was filled with hope. Each day brought new challenges, but also new opportunities for growth and unity. Mary and Clara found solace in the work. They had discovered a strength within themselves, and they were eager to use it to help their community. They worked alongside their friends and neighbors, their hearts full of gratitude for the new life they were building. Chaitin and Ahote continued to lead with quiet strength. Their wisdom and guidance were invaluable as the people of the valley navigated the challenges of rebuilding. They worked tirelessly, their presence a source of comfort and reassurance to those around them. As the days turned into weeks, the bonds between the people of the valley grew even stronger. They had faced a great challenge and emerged victorious, their unity a testament to their resilience and determination. The love and support they showed each other were evident in every task they undertook. Mary and Chaitin spent much of their time together, their bond deepening with each passing day. They shared their hopes and dreams, their hearts open and trusting. Mary found strength in Chaitin's calm presence, his love a steady light in her life. Clara and Ahote, too, found comfort in each other. Their connection was forged in the fires of conflict, and it had grown stronger in the days that followed. They shared quiet moments together, their hearts full of hope for the future. The valley had become a true home for Mary and Clara. They had found more than just a place to live. They had found a community, a family. Their hearts were full of gratitude for the journey that had brought them here, and for the friends who had stood by their side. As the valley continued to heal, the people began to look to the future. They knew there would be challenges ahead, but they were ready to face them together. Their unity and strength were unbreakable, their love for each other unwavering. The community began to plan for the future, their hearts full of hope and determination. They wanted to build a place where everyone was accepted and respected, a place where love and kindness were at the forefront of everything they did. Mary and Clara emerged as leaders in this effort. Their voices were strong and unwavering, their vision for the future clear and inspiring. They knew that together, they could build a new life, one filled with promise and possibility. Chaitin and Ahote stood by their side, their presence a source of strength and reassurance. They knew the road ahead would not be easy, but they were ready to face it together. Their hearts were full, their spirits light. The valley had become a place of hope and healing. The people had faced a great challenge and emerged victorious, their unity a testament to the power of love and friendship. They had found more than just a sanctuary. They had found a family. As the days turned into months, the bonds between the people of the valley grew even stronger. They had faced their greatest challenge and emerged victorious. Their hearts were full of gratitude for the journey that had brought them here, and for the friends who had stood by their side. The valley was filled with the sounds of laughter and joy, the echoes of a community united by love and friendship. The people worked together, played together, and supported each other in everything they did. Mary and Clara looked to the future with confidence, knowing they were building a new life, one filled with promise and possibility. They had found a new home, a place where they belonged. And with Chayton and Ahote by their side, they knew they could face whatever the future held. The valley, once a place of peace, had become a place of strength and unity. The people had fought for their home and they had won. They had found more than just a sanctuary. They had found a family. As the sun set on another day, the people of the valley gathered together, their hearts full of hope and determination. They knew the days ahead would be challenging, but they were ready to face them together. They had found a new home, a place where they belonged. And with Chayton and Ahote by their side, they knew they could overcome anything. The valley was filled with the sounds of laughter and joy, the echoes of a community united by love and friendship. The people worked together, played together, and supported each other in everything they did. Mary and Clara looked to the future with confidence, knowing they were building a new life, one filled with promise and possibility. They had found a new home, a place where they belonged. And with Chayton and Ahote by their side, they knew they could face whatever the future held. The valley was their sanctuary, their home, and their family. Together, they were ready to face the future, hand in hand. The seasons changed slowly in the valley, marking the passage of time with gentle shifts in the landscape. Mary, Clara, Chayton, Ahote, and the rest of the community continued to build their lives, each day bringing new challenges and triumphs. The valley had become a symbol of hope and resilience, a testament to the strength of unity and love. With the threat from their past diminished, the people of the valley turned their attention to the future. They wanted to create a community where acceptance and respect were the foundation. They worked together to build homes, plant crops, and care for the land. The valley was becoming a place of abundance, a haven for all who sought peace and belonging. Mary and Clara played a vital role in these efforts. They were natural leaders, their vision for the future clear and inspiring. They encouraged everyone to participate, fostering a sense of ownership and pride in their shared achievements. Their hearts were full as they watched the community grow and thrive. Chayton and Ahote continued to be pillars of strength. Their guidance and wisdom were invaluable as the people navigated the complexities of building a new life. They worked tirelessly, their love for the community evident in everything they did. The bonds they had forged with Mary and Clara grew stronger, their partnership a source of comfort and joy. Together, they led the community in planning for the future. They discussed ideas for education, healthcare, and governance, ensuring that everyone had a voice in shaping their new home. The people of the valley were united by a common goal, their determination and hope driving them forward. As the days turned into weeks and months, the community flourished. The gardens they planted yielded bountiful harvests, and the valley was filled with the sounds of children playing and laughter echoing through the air. The people took care of one another, their bonds strengthened by the shared trials and triumphs they had experienced. Mary found happiness in the simple joys of daily life. She worked alongside Chayton, their love growing deeper with each passing day. They spoke of their dreams for the future, their hearts full of hope and gratitude for the life they were building together. Clara, too, found fulfillment in her partnership with Ahote. They shared a quiet understanding, their connection a source of strength and comfort. Clara felt a sense of peace she had never known, her heart open and ready for whatever the future held. The community celebrated their successes with gatherings and festivals, each event a reminder of all they had achieved. They sang songs and shared stories, their voices raised in celebration of the life they had created. The valley was filled with joy and laughter, a testament to the power of love and unity. Mary and Clara looked around at the people they had come to love, their hearts full of pride and gratitude. They knew they had found more than just a home. They had found a family. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had brought them to this place, to these people. Chayton and Ahote stood by their side, their presence a source of comfort and reassurance. They knew the road ahead would not always be easy, but they were ready to face it together. Their hearts were full, their spirits light. As the sun set on another day, the community gathered together, their hearts full of hope and determination. They knew the days ahead would bring new challenges, but they were ready to face them as one. They had built a new home, a place where love and kindness were at the forefront of everything they did. The valley had become a beacon of hope, a place where people could come together and build a future filled with promise and possibility. The bonds they had formed were strong, their love for each other unwavering. They knew they had faced their greatest challenges and emerged victorious, their hearts full of gratitude for the journey that had brought them to this place. Mary and Clara looked to the future with confidence, knowing they were building a new life, one filled with love and unity. They had found a home, a place where they belonged. And with Chayton and Ahote by their side, they knew they could face whatever the future held. The valley, once a place of peace, had become a place of strength and unity. The people had fought for their home and they had won. They had found more than just a sanctuary. They had found a family. And as they looked out over the valley, they knew they were ready to face the future, together. The bonds they had formed were strong, their love for each other unwavering. They knew they had faced their greatest challenges and emerged victorious. Their hearts were full of gratitude for the journey that had brought them here, and for the friends who had stood by their side. The valley was filled with the sounds of laughter and joy, the echoes of a community united by love and friendship. The people worked together, played together, and supported each other in everything they did. As the stars appeared in the sky, the people of the valley gathered together, their hearts full of hope and determination. They knew the days ahead would be challenging, but they were ready to face them together. They had found a new home, a place where they belonged. And with Chayton and Ahote by their side, they knew they could overcome anything. The valley was their sanctuary, their home, and their family. Together, they were ready to face the future, hand in hand. Years passed in the valley, and the community continued to grow and flourish. The people lived in harmony, their lives intertwined by shared experiences and common goals. Mary and Clara, now matriarchs, watched with pride as the valley became a beacon of hope and unity. The children of the valley grew up surrounded by love and support. They learned the values of acceptance and respect, guided by the examples set by their parents and elders. The bonds between families were strong, their connections deepened by the challenges they had faced together. Mary and Chayton's love had blossomed over the years. They had built a life filled with joy and laughter, their partnership a source of strength and comfort. Together, they had raised a family, their children a testament to their love and commitment. Clara and Ahote, too, had found happiness in their shared life. Their relationship was a source of peace and stability, their love a guiding force in the community. They had built a family of their own, their children growing up in the safety and warmth of the valley. As the children grew, they learned the stories of their parents' journey. They knew of the hardships and challenges faced by Mary, Clara, Chayton, and Ahote. Their parents' bravery and resilience were sources of inspiration, their legacy a beacon of hope for future generations. The valley had become a place of learning and growth. The younger generation embraced the values of their elders, eager to contribute to the community and carry on the legacy of courage and unity. They worked alongside their parents, building on the foundation laid by those who had come before them. Mary and Clara reflected on their journey, grateful for the lives they had built. They had found a place where they belonged, a family where they were cherished and loved. The struggles of the past had brought them to this place, to these people, and their hearts were full of gratitude. Chayton and Ahote, too, felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They had created a home where love and kindness were at the forefront of everything they did. Their hearts were full as they watched the valley thrive, a testament to the power of unity and friendship. The community continued to celebrate their successes with gatherings and festivals. Each event was a reminder of all they had achieved, a celebration of the life they had created. The valley was filled with joy and laughter, the echoes of a community united by love and friendship. As the years passed, the legacy of courage and resilience lived on. The story of Mary, Clara, Chayton, and Ahote became legend, a tale passed down through generations. The children grew up hearing of their parents' bravery, their hearts filled with pride and inspiration. The valley remained a place of hope and healing, a sanctuary for all who sought peace and belonging. The community worked together, their bonds strengthened by the shared trials and triumphs they had experienced. The love and support they showed each other were evident in every aspect of their lives. Mary and Clara watched as their children grew into strong, capable individuals. They knew they had prepared them well for the challenges of the future, their hearts full of confidence in the next generation. Their legacy would live on through their children, a testament to the power of love and unity. Chayton and Ahote stood by their side, their love and support unwavering. They knew the road ahead would bring new challenges, but they were ready to face them together. Their hearts were full, their spirits light. As the sun set on another day, the people of the valley gathered together, their hearts full of hope and determination. They knew the days ahead would be challenging, but they were ready to face them together. They had built a new home, a place where love and kindness were at the forefront of everything they did. The valley, once a place of peace, had become a place of strength and unity. The people had fought for their home and they had won. They had found more than just a sanctuary. They had found a family. And as they looked out over the valley, they knew they were ready to face the future. Together, the bonds they had formed were strong, their love for each other unwavering. They knew they had faced their greatest challenges and emerged victorious. Their hearts were full of gratitude for the journey that had brought them here, and for the friends who had stood by their side. The valley was filled with the sounds of laughter and joy, the echoes of a community united by love and friendship. The people worked together, played together, and supported each other in everything they did. Mary and Clara looked to the future with confidence, knowing they had built a new life, one filled with promise and possibility. They had found a new home, a place where they belonged. And with Chayton and Ahote by their side, they knew they could face whatever the future held. The valley was their sanctuary, their home, and their family. Together, they were ready to face the future, hand in hand. As the stars appeared in the sky, the people of the valley gathered together, their hearts full of hope and determination. They knew the days ahead would be challenging, but they were ready to face them together. They had found a new home, a place where they belonged. And with Chayton and Ahote by their side, they knew they could overcome anything. If you loved the story, like the video and subscribe.